las tormentas agitan los aires y nubes oscuras nos impiden ver, aunque nos espere el dolor.
Greetings, brothers, sisters, friends, comrades, workers of the world, and welcome to the Black Rose. In this video I would like to criticize anarcho-capitalism on its inadequacy when it comes to dealing with social injustice, something that, in my opinion, has not been done enough. One of the larger problems of modern society is its prominent social inequality, manifesting itself in many different ways, all with separate movements fighting against them. Patriarchy, structural racism, ageism, ableism, transphobia, homophobia, biphobia, the list goes on and on and on. They are all systems that are rampant in society today. It is clear to most of us that we cannot have a just society with these systems in place, as they grant unfair societal privileges to one or a small number of groups of people, usually rich, cis, able-bodied, middle-aged, white, straight men, while disadvantaging everyone else. The disadvantaged groups do of course have layers of internal privilege as well. For example, a working-class community is likely to suffer from the same, if not a larger, intensity of patriarchal gender norms or racial stereotypes than the higher classes, due to what they've been fed by the system that pushed them into the ground. These prejudices may be considered harmless on an individual level, but the problem is that the opinions of individuals, especially individuals in positions of power, affect the society as a whole. These once personal prejudices have risen in significance and are now a societal problem, reinforced by media, educational systems, etc. This is how prejudice becomes reinforced and perpetuated both on an individual and a personal level, and within a larger societal context. Or in other words, this is how personal prejudice becomes social injustice. Social injustice strongly affects any given person's level of success, from the school building to the retirement home. This is why we don't see many female, disabled, trans, non-white, etc. people in positions of power, political and economic power, official or unofficial. However, the movements mentioned earlier have managed to get some justice for their groups, most often through continuous protests and actions against established law/social norm, until some change in the legal system has been made to include them in the system, like anti-discrimination laws when it comes to employment and or customer service. Anarchists aim for a society without social hierarchy, and therefore view it as self-evident that a large change in society and culture has to take place. This is why anarchists put such an emphasis on things like feminism and anti-racism, because we recognize that it's absolutely necessary for these to exist in order to establish an acceptable society. This is also one of the reasons that we are absolutely against any and all forms of capitalism, because giving a select group of persons the exclusive right to the means of production will inevitably lead to the situation I described earlier. That is, a system in which the prejudices of individuals grow into social injustices encompassing entire societies. Anarcho-capitalism does not hold the same goals. Anarcho-capitalists propose a system where the state is abolished and all laws interfering with the free market with it. Given that the anarcho-capitalist movement has no internal emphasis on achieving social justice, and given that our current society is not socially just, and given also that our current society has achieved the little social justice that it has through changes in the legal system, taking the rights of capitalists to discriminate, I believe that it's fairly certain that the evolution towards social justice would not only stop with the initiation of anarcho-capitalist society, but also regress to standards comparable to the late 1800s. Laissez-faire capitalism implies the total freedom of the bourgeoisie to do as they wish with their property, which means that they obviously get to decide who to employ or give service to. This means that the capitalist class in a laissez-faire society can effectively murder, or at the very least lower the standard of life of entire social groups of people. This can be done either by denying them work, leaving them unable to acquire the means of life, or granting them work but denying them access to the means of life via direct ban. the capitalist class practically has the ability to establish a de facto apartheid system. As this is a substantial amount of power, even both as a class and on an individual level, we can expect the empathetic abilities of the capitalist class to be massively reduced. As social injustices will already exist in pre-anarcho-capitalist society, they will inevitably affect the views held by the bourgeois class, ensuring that they personally have prejudices in line with the previous society. These prejudices will then be incorporated into the decision-making process of the capitalists, that is, who they choose to employ or give service to. When these 2 points are combined, that is, the inevitable prejudices of the capitalists and their exclusive and unrestricted control over the means of production, the result is the regression of social justice. The capitalist class will use their power to establish de facto apartheid systems against those who they have prejudices against. Sure, the culture itself may not become socially unjust right after the establishment of anarcho-capitalist society, but that's not the point. I recognize that anarcho-capitalism is not inherently anti-social justice in theory. What makes it anti-social justice is the climate in which it is allowed to grow, in combination with the capitalist class's total power over the means of production. A laissez-faire capitalist system will inevitably make whatever prejudices may be common in society more prevalent and strong. Even if anarcho-capitalism is allowed to develop under perfect and socially just conditions, it is still extremely susceptible to becoming socially unjust, as the actions of just a few successful capitalists can entirely change the culture.